So today we're going to be answering your most asked questions about resin. Hi everyone, it's LJ here, and today I am back with my answering your questions video. So I get quite a few questions from you guys, either here on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram. I get quite a lot of messages going, what about this, how about this, how about that? So what I've done is I've created a list of questions that I'm going to answer today. And then if you guys have any follow-on questions or any other questions that I haven't covered, if you leave them down in the description box, then I will gladly make a part 2 and answer the rest of your comments. So while I get that ready, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Those of you that have, I truly appreciate you. You make my day seeing how many people subscribe and comment and watch my videos. It's just, it's an honour. You guys are amazing and I love you for it. So yeah, please let me know if you have any other questions. And if you do fancy subscribing, then please do. It means the absolute world to me. I can't believe I'm nearly at 400. It's, wow. Okay, so we're going to start off with our questions. So I have this list of questions on my phone that I have compiled from my different places. So the first one is, do you need gloves? Oh dear, do you need gloves? Yes. 100% yes, you need gloves. Please wear gloves anytime you touch resin. Anytime. Ever. Okay, so I have these. These are nitrile gloves. You want to use nitrile over things like latex. They just give more protection because resin is a harsh chemical and it can really hurt you. Best thing about these is they are reusable. I think I've used these gloves 2 or 3 times and you can see there's spots of resin on them. But all I do is wipe them over with a baby wipe when I'm done, let them dry, and they are reusable. And I'll reuse them and reuse them as much as I can for a couple of reasons. One, I don't just want to use a glove once and throw it away. It's bad for the environment, it's bad for my wallet, bad for everything. But 2, especially during the lockdown that we've had, it's been so hard to get hold of anything. And yeah, it's been a worry for me because I see quite a lot of big YouTubers, big influencers doing resin and they don't wear gloves. They talk all the way through their videos because they're not wearing a mask. And it frightens me because there are so many people who've taken up resin as a new hobby during this time, and that's fantastic. I'm all for that. I'm loving that people are getting into this incredible craft. But it is dangerous. It's really dangerous. So you need to be protecting yourself. So I use my nitrile gloves. I also, as I've just said, use a mask. This is my respirator, which has chemical filters on. And these filters you can change. This is absolutely fantastic. It's so comfortable. It's adjustable around the head and around the neck. It is, yeah, wonderfully comfortable. I love this. I'm on the second set of filters. You know your filters are starting to go when you can smell things. So what I will do is I'll get something like, I don't know, some garlic or a banana or something else that's got quite a unique, strong smell. And I'll put this on and see if I can smell it. Because if I can smell that, that means I'll be able to smell the resin. And I just want to put in here, if your resin says no VOCs, no odour, or low VOCs, low odour, you still need to use these. What that means is that while they're in their separate bottles of resin and hardener, they are safe. While once they have fully cured after 21 days or whatever, then it's completely safe. Any time in between those, from the moment you mix them together to that moment of fully cured, they are dangerous. They release chemicals. They are dangerous, so you need to be wearing these whenever you are working with it, especially if you add things like heat or colourant or anything else because you change the chemical compound. And another time that you really must wear these is with mica powder, because it's dust and that dust can get into your lungs and cause serious problems. Okie dokie. Question number 2 was, what do you cover your surfaces with? Now, lots of people do this in a different way. So I have silicone mats and you can get a few. So these are cooking ones. This one and this one are both cooking silicone mats. You can just buy them from Amazon. These are ones to make little macaroons on. This one has no pattern. You've got some handy measurements around the side if you need to measure the length of something, for example. But I also have some of these, once you don't have the measurements on, they are just plain. And these ones I like a lot because once you've pushed it down, it's difficult for it to, give it a second, like it doesn't move because it tends to, it's got a shiny side which sticks to your surfaces, which I think is brilliant. So I like using silicone just because it's easy to clean. It's the same material as your moulds are made from, so it's quite easy to clean. Okay, question number 3. This one I have got repeatedly. How do you know how much resin to mix? Now, I'm going to give you an example using this mould. This is one of my favourite moulds, my moon. And there are 2 ways to know. And what I do, when I get a mould, I will test it out and I make a little sheet that tells me how much resin each mould holds. And then all I need to do is check my sheet to find out. So there are 2 ways you can do this. You can do this with rice and you can do it with water. I have found the rice to be more accurate just because of spills. Okay, so I'm just going to put a base underneath my mould and I'm going to get my rice. Now I have this rice in a pot that says resin rice, do not eat. Please do not mix this with rice that you're going to cook or eat. Just no, resin and food do not go. So I'm going to fill up my mould with rice and I'm going to spill it everywhere because I'm on camera. So obviously I'm going to spill it everywhere. I'll pop that back into the mould, and what you want to do is you just want to fill it so that it is pretty much flush to the top. Resin will always shrink slightly as it cures, so you will want to make sure you have got a flat surface when you get it on. So I'm just making sure it goes all the way to the end, and I am just filling it in so we get a nice full mould. What I'm then going to do is just tip out all that excess back into the pot because we don't want any miscalculations. Get my jug, and then I love doing this, it's so satisfying, twisting it round so that all the rice falls out into the jug. And that was 300. Okie dokie, so we've done the rice. Now we're going to move on and do the water. Now I have found when doing the water that it does drip and cause problems. So what I used to do was fill the mould with a cup and try and tip that into the jug, and I found that I got it everywhere and it was a bit of a nightmare. So what I do now is I fill my jug up. So the rice was 300, so now it's going to be around there. So I have filled my jug to 500 mils. I'm then going to pour it in, see what's left in the jug. That to me is just the easiest way of doing it. So once I have filled my mould, I saw what was left in the jug, which was just over 300. So I emptied that. I then am going to tip the mould into the jug, and that ended up giving me 270. I did spill a little bit, so I had to take that into account. So I'm going to put that into the bowl because that's easy. Then I'm going to pour the drip in, pour the bowl into the jug, and then measure it. And that gave me 270 mils, so almost 300. Okay, so the next question is, what can I do with leftover resin? So there's a number of things you can do with leftover resin. If you know you're going to have a lot left over and you've got a lot of pot time, then obviously you can come up with a planned project. If not, then what I will always have on hand is some smaller moulds. So I've got a selection, these small pendants which I leave for dribbles, so sometimes, as you can see, they're not completely full. I get layered pendants in those, which are really, really cute. I then have a variety of other moulds, and all I do is just pop any leftover resin in these, but I try not to have leftovers because I measure. The next question that I have is, how do I clean things up? So there are a variety of ways that I clean things. So the first thing I'm going to show you is my moulds. So I've got a few moulds here. Now this one has some mica powder on the edging, and these just have bits of leftover resin or some dust. So the first thing you can do is go over them with a baby wipe or something like that, which will clean it off wonderfully, but I don't particularly enjoy using baby wipes so much. You can use different cleaning products as well. You can put them in a bowl of warm soapy water and leave them to dry. What I find is if I do that, I get water spots on them. So what I will do most of the time is let it dry, and then if it's bits of resin like this, I can just pick it off with my finger and pop it in the bin. Another that I use is tape. So I have this packing tape, and I'll just take a little bit off, if I can find the end. Take a little bit off, not even the size of my hand, and this will just go round and pick up all the bits that are left on there. There is my bit of manky tape that has cleaned for mould. So it's not a huge amount of waste. If I have large drops of resin, what I'll do is leave them on the edge of the mould. So say I had a big drop here, I'd leave it on the edge of the mould, peel it off and then put it in my scraps pot. And so I've got a little pot of scrap pieces of resin that look really cool, like dropped into clear places or as pebbles in a scene. So there are some really cool ways to use it. And one of the best things about using this tape is once the roll is empty, you are left with, you can see there you go, the inside's the same roll of tape. You can see this is fantastic to stand moulds on or pieces on if you want to do a clear top coat. So say I had this piece and I wanted to do a dome on the back to get rid of this slight ridge. You can sit it on that so that it's level, pour it on, great. Alternatively, if you need to, because I cover my pieces while they're curing, if you need to, you can use these either side so that the cover is raised up if your mould is quite thick. Next question is, or I've combined two there, what do you use for cleaning and how do you clean your moulds? Sorted, because I can clear the silicone mats in exactly the same way as the moulds, either by peeling it off or in little bits and pieces using a bit of tape. So the next one is, what do you use to sand your pieces? So I've got a couple of options. I have my little rechargeable tool. This one has a sanding piece on the tip. It has lots of other pieces as well, like a drill. Now, I've deliberately not cleaned this so I can show you. Can you see all the dust that is all the way around the actual tool itself? Okay. One of the biggest tips I can give you is if you need to sand a resin piece, say you've got a lip on it or you had a bit of an overflow or there's a problem, using this, or even when I have a smaller thing to do, I use, so these are for bigger pieces, these emery boards I use, it's like nail files, emery boards. These I use for very small bits and pieces, they're brilliant as well. Please, 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 wear your PPE, wear a mask, wear your gloves, wear everything, because this dust will get into your lungs and cause you serious, serious problems. And then once you are done, so you've got your tool like this, I have these wonder wipes, they're absolutely brilliant. So let's grab one out. So these will just go around and they are very, very wet, so they pick up all the dust, because you don't want to blow the dust or, you know, try and just leave it sat there. You want to make sure you've got all that dust off of your tool, off of the sanding block and off of your piece of resin, because that dust is very, very dangerous. And this is going straight in the bin. Okay, next one. Oh, I missed a piece, that's fine. Next one is about what do I use? How do I clean the pots that I mix in? So to start with, let me show you what I use. I have a variety of pots that I mix my resin into, depending on the need or what I'm doing. So those are what I use to mix my resin in, and I use all of them for the specific reason that resin will peel out of it. Kept my stick in it for a reason. What I'll do first is I'll pop that off from the side, just go around, squeezing, I love that noise. So pulling all that resin away from the edge of the cup, pop the bottom, and there you have an almost perfectly clear cup. That's now nice and clean and ready to go. Now I try and reuse my lolly sticks as well, because once they've got resin on, they're better. Wood will incorporate bubbles into your resin, but once it's covered in resin, it's much better because it's sealed, so the bubbles won't come out. So I've just popped that off. That's now good to use. This goes in the bin. Okay, so the next question is, how do I stop my glitter from sinking? So I know that a lot of people do struggle, especially with thicker pieces, with their glitter sinking. So there are two ways to do this. First, and probably the easiest, is to buy super fine glitter. So this is super fine glitter. It's very thin, almost powdery. Make sure you use your respirator if you're using this. But this stuff is brilliant because it won't sink. It will stay dispersed through the resin like a mica powder would. So this is ultra fine glitter, and as you can see with my heart here, it hasn't sunk. The whole piece, front, back and sides, has the glitter dispersed through it. It's absolutely beautiful. So that's one way to do it. The second way to do it, if you have thicker glitter, more traditional glitter, where you can actually see the bigger pieces of glitter, you can see these have glitter on the back as well, is to let your resin thicken up slightly. Because once it's got a little bit thicker, and you pour it in and mix that glitter in, it will stay dispersed through the resin. So as you can see on this quite a thick piece, the glitter is everywhere. It hasn't sunk, it hasn't all risen, it is beautifully dispersed. So those are my tips for glitter. Okie dokie, those are my resin tips for today. As I said at the beginning, if you have any more questions you want answered, put them in the description box and I will happily do a part 2. Thank you very much for all my current subscribers. If you are new here, thank you very much for staying and enjoying. Please leave me a comment if you enjoyed this video, like it, share it to anyone else who might. And if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing because it means the absolute world to me to have that button clicked. It just lets me know that what I'm doing is what you guys want, and that makes me happy. So yeah, thank you very much for spending time with me today, guys. Keep crafting and I'll see you soon. Bye.